Show. That's right. Welcome in. Wow, what a weekend. Welcome in. Welcome back, folks, to a college football chaos strikes. What does this do? / what does this mean for Notre Dame edition of the bye week? Always Irish Show. As always, thanks for being here. You can find a program on... Wait a second. I forgot my chain. I'm out of my routine on this bye weekend. I get to wear the chain just because all these other teams I don't like, half of them lost. Let's get into it. As always, you can find a program on YouTube. Do it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps John out as well. Notifications on that way you don't miss anything. Twitter, search bar Always Irish. Rat, Always Irish. Emails alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only anywhere you want it. You can get it if you don't want to see my face. Ain't nobody blame you for that. The call-in lines, 312-988-15. You dial it up. Tell Uncle Johnny all you've heard and seen. Patreon.com/Always Irish. Former captain, leading tackler Mike Goolsby, and myself with Jared Clark, another Notre Damer in the mix, breaking down all the film. We got it going over there. Thanks to everybody who's there. And don't forget, Notre Dame Fighting Irish brought to you by Sports Illustrated. Read all about it. We have a good team. Articles out the wazoo every day. Averaging 10 to 13 articles a day, every day. Let's get it. Love it. All right. Hope you enjoyed the week off. I know I needed it for my sanity, for my hairline, my blood pressure, my stress levels. Johnny needed a week away from Notre Dame football. I needed a week away from Notre Dame football. If Notre Dame was really, really good and consistent and kicking the crap out of everybody the way they should, the way we played ball back when this guy was here, then I wouldn't need a break. And I'd say, give me a game every single week because I'm not nervous or anxious. I'm excited to get to the Notre Dame game. But that's not what we get. That's not what we get. The last 30 years of Notre Dame football or whatever, where you're excited to turn on the TV because you have a trust in your team and they've proven they're going to go kick somebody's head in. We don't have that. So our games are anxiety. Our games are anxious because you can't rely on us to go in there and kick anybody around. I needed the break. So I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Little break on the content. I could watch football on a Saturday and it's not a full work day for 15 hours. I appreciated it. Don't look now, folks. Army and Navy, both undefeated. Don't look now. I know we got things to do before we get there. Oh, I was paying attention to that. That could be dangerous the way Notre Dame plays offense. We'll get to that later. I know it's down on the schedule, but I'm circling it right now. Here's the deal. Right when everybody looked at the college slate, I said, what an idiot. I said, right when Notre Dame has a bye week, there's not that many good, juicy games going on. I wish there was more, competitive ranked on ranked games of interest. The week we're off and we can relax and watch all the other games or whatever, right when you think it's a light college football schedule week, boom, college football chaos hits. All day, chaos. Let's go through some of it and what it means for Notre Dame. Bama falls to Vandy It's surprising because it's Alabama, and usually, even if they have one of these sleepy weeks after a big emotional game the week before with Georgia and all that, they play bad but have enough talent they could drag it out and get an ugly win and everybody moves on. Well, that didn't happen. So Bama falls to Vandy. Number one, if they fall, great job, Clark Lee. And Pavia, whatever you say that quarterback's name, really, really good job. Happy for those guys. Clark Lee, great job by Clark Lee. And here's the deal with this quarterback. He put the team on his back, beat the number one team. He willed his team to victory, made the plays you need to play, is the emotional leader of the team. Everybody rallies behind him, and he fights, has a great personality. Everybody wants to rally around. And he put the team on his back and beat the number one team in America when Bama was hungover. That's killer instinct. That's what want a quarterback to do. That's what I've been begging a Notre Dame quarterback to do, and they have not been able to do it. It's like, well, John, what do you mean? Don't Wasn't it Ian Book that shushed the home crowd when he pulled off a last-minute win against 4-loss Virginia Tech at home? Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about, bro. I'm talking about the number one team in America, and you have a quarterback put the team on his back and beat them. Not a multi-loss Virginia Tech team at home, and then your quarterback pulls it out at the end, and it's like this big deal. No, that's not the same thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? I need our quarterback to make those plays against the number one team. Not barely pull out wins against teams we should already beat and then like puff out their chest. That doesn't interest me. But that's what we've gotten. Not interested. Where's our quarterback that puts the team on his back and says, we're winning this, and it's against like one of the top teams in America? Get on my back. I'm willing us to victory, and I have the physical capability and the emotional leadership abilities to do it. Where's our guy to do that? I'm waiting. So really good job by Notre Damer Clark Lee and that quarterback, man. I just love seeing a guy like that succeed. So great job for them. I wish we had a guy that could just put the team on our back and do something like that. It'd be nice. Number 2, Tennessee falls to Arkansas. So I don't know. I think people just thought that offense was going to score all the time. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I think it's a bad loss to Arkansas. Texas A&M blows out Missouri. Blows out. Texas A&M finds that offense. They didn't really have, you were like, oh, defensive line driven team, blah, 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 blah. They pulled out the offense in this ball game. Glad Notre Dame got them when they did. So A&M blows out Missouri. That helps Notre Dame there on the, they're going to move up in the rankings or whatever. Obviously, not have 2 losses, so they're going to move up and knock Missouri down. So I don't know. I think that's an interesting one for Notre Dame. I know I watched that first thing at 11 a.m. Washington beats Michigan. You love to see it. Like, I'm here for all these Michigan losses. I would be more here for it if they already announced they were putting an asterisk and not honoring their Big Ten and championship last year, because that's what the only thing keeping the Michigan people sane now is, oh, at least we have that from last year. I want them to not even have that from last year. Let's make that ruling public. What are we waiting for? Oh, 90-day period for them to be able to respond, blah, 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 blah. No. Announce you're taking it off the board. How about Minnesota over USC? PJ Fleck and his tie beating USC. Well, USC, you're going to be getting into this Big Ten schedule, and you're going to be traveling weird places, and it's not. I just feel like USC used to have these highlights on the schedule, Notre Dame, and then a couple, Utah, Oregon. Like, there was a couple flashpoints on that West Coast schedule. And I just feel like all the games now in between those big flashpoint games for USC are just going to be tougher. Tougher schedule, just a tougher style of play than that West Coast style. So these in-between games are going to be an adjustment for USC, and they didn't adjust to this one, and they lost. The one that's pissing me off is Miami should have lost a couple weeks in a row and didn't. It's really bothering me. Like, Miami's hanging by a thread off. They have one of the weakest schedules I've ever seen in my life. It's way weaker than ours, and we have a weak schedule this year. And they're barely hanging on, and the schedule's so weak, and they're still barely hanging on. It's really, and they got away with it again last night, and it pisses me off. So, man, I'm looking at that Army-Navy thing, still undefeated. I'm telling you, if you're playing a Navy team and they have one of their good offenses, the way Notre Dame plays offense, you go 3 and out a couple times, let them eat up 9 minutes with a 14-play drive a couple times, you're losing that ball game. And it's unacceptable. You're losing that ball game, and so I'm already mad about it. I'm already like, you got Army and Navy both in a year where they're both undefeated and have like the best offenses and people to run it that they've had in a long time. and they're both on the schedule. Ultimate traps of all traps. You beat them, you get no credit. It's just a military academy. Even if they're undefeated, you beat them and you get no credit. And you lose and you get ridiculed. It's a no-win situation for Notre Dame, and I hate it. But that's what we're facing. You go 3 and out with this offense we have a couple times, give up some long drives, that's how you lose to Army or Navy. So I'm already stressing out about that. Sure enough, Louisville lost. So there goes that, Louisville, that's going to be a huge cornerstone win for Notre Dame because Louisville's going to be competing for the championship in that conference and this and that. Well, I don't think so. So Louisville lost to SMU. That's not good for Notre Dame's strength of whatever. God, that Miami one bothers me. They should have caught a couple losses here. The weakest schedule in the world, they're still barely getting by, and they think they're good now. It's bothering me. That was the last domino I wanted to fall last night, and it didn't. How does this all relate to Notre Dame? It's about as productive of a day as you could have. Not playing, having all this carnage, and it's it's as good as you could do. It's as good as you could do sitting at home, having all these teams lose that are ahead of you. It's as good. You're creeping up near the top 10, and you were eating Charlie Weiss's cheeseburgers with double cheese and nothing else on them. Plain cheeseburgers. Plain. So this was about as productive of a bye week as you could possibly have for Notre Dame. Just letting all this carnage happen and all these teams that were a little bit ahead of you. Now you should be moving up right near the top 10 based on these losses, and then you keep winning, you're going to be within that playoff window. Now, here's where this gets really, really interesting. There was no data on how the playoff committee was going to handle the 12-team thing. It's a clean slate. There's no data to study or anything to tip you off how this is going to go. So it's very interesting. Here's what this is starting to make me think about. One loss is one loss. And kind of how, unless you're Notre Dame and your one loss is to Northern and it's unacceptable, for most regular teams, one loss is one loss, and you kind of drop an amount that's commensurate with where you started, and then they respect some of that, and then you drop a little bit. One loss is one loss. Here's where this is going to get really interesting, though. What does this committee start doing when some of these teams pick up their second loss? That is where this experiment gets really, really interesting, because think about it. I'll just throw this out as an example. I don't believe there's anybody in America that would pick Notre Dame to beat Alabama on a neutral field or even at our place or whatever. No one in America would pick Notre Dame to beat Alabama. Okay? What if Alabama loses another game in the SEC and Notre Dame just keeps scraping by these wins? Do you have Notre Dame with the one loss ranked ahead of Alabama? Or are they going to say, we still think Alabama would beat Notre Dame and they're playing in the tough SEC, and even though they have 2 losses, they would beat Notre Dame. So even though Notre Dame only has 1 loss and it was a month and a half ago, the second week of the season, we're putting Alabama ahead of Notre Dame. So then what does it take? 3 losses for Notre Dame to get it ahead of Alabama? See, this is where this committee has so much power. And the perception of certain conferences and teams and all that's going to play into this. Notre Dame has an easy schedule and a horrible loss. Notre Dame has an easy schedule and a horrible loss. How does this committee stack that up? What if Alabama loses again? You got 1 loss Notre Dame, and it was a month and a half ago against a 2-loss Alabama. Are they still ahead? That's the next part of this experiment is going to get really, really interesting when you have teams within that. See, this all was narrowed down in the track of 4 before. And at this point, you would have had to be undefeated to still be up in the top 4, whatever, obviously. But now that the board has expanded to 12, you start looking down that list and saying, how are you going to stack these teams up? when you start getting multiple losses? Doesn't it get hard at some point to keep making the argument? We believe this team's better than this team, but they keep losing. 1 loss, 2 loss. Is it going to get to 3 losses? Like, how much value are they going to give to the Big Ten and the SEC for tough scheduling? So that's what I want to know, man. Alabama catches another loss somewhere. They got 2 losses. How many of these teams are they still add up just because it's Alabama and they're going to say the SEC's hard week to week? That's where I start wondering, do we revert back to, 1 loss is less than 2? You're going to be ranked ahead of a 2-loss team no matter what? Or does it really get into, we believe in the SEC that much, a 3-loss team's going to be ranked ahead of Notre Dame with 1 loss? I wouldn't put it past anybody on this committee. And don't you guys forget this either. Don't forget this. Remember, if you're thinking, oh, this committee, man, we're going to be on the straight and narrow now, whatever. No, you're not. This committee went out and hired Michigan's athletic director, overseeing multiple scandals and cover-ups at his own school, to oversee this committee. And when did it? Oh, John, I bet you they offered him that job before the Connor Stallions. No, it was right in the middle of it. Right in the middle of them being investigated for all this last year and all the drama and all the legal stuff going on. That's when they approached the Michigan's AD and said, you seem like you are an upstanding, moral person. We want you to be in charge of the new playoff. So I trust these people 0%. They selected a cheater, cover-up guy with no integrity to be in charge of all this. So you cannot trust it one bit, not for 1 second, by the nature of them going out of their way to make this guy in charge of it, overseeing multiple scandals, covering up for it all. Covering up for it all, not doing the right thing. So that's the guy they wanted to run all this. That tells you where they're at. You cannot trust this group one bit. That's why if you're Notre Dame and you're independent, nobody's on your side, you got to win to force their hand. So really interesting day for Notre Dame. Good day for Notre Dame. I wanted that Miami one, damn it. But good day for Notre Dame. You're going to move up a lot. Some rivals lost. If only Kelly could have lost. He was on a bye week too, right? You had. I wanted Miami to lose. I got USC to lose. I got Michigan to lose. If only Kelly wasn't on the bye. And then, gosh, I guess the big winner in all this is probably Texas being off and letting all this carnage happen. Probably a number 1 team in America now. So I don't know what you guys think of all this, but it's a lot of college chaos on the bye week. 1 loss is 1 loss. I want to see what happens when we start dealing with 2. How do you gauge 1 loss, but an easier schedule or conference against 2 losses in what is perceived to be a tougher conference and a better team? That's what I want to see. But you cannot trust this committee at all. They put someone with no integrity in charge of it, and that should tell you where they're at. What do you guys think?